Welcome to the Inspirational, Informational, and Transparent Aviation Careers podcast. In this episode, we're going to answer the question, should you build time in your own personal airplane so that you can get to the regionals? But first, we're going to answer some listener mail, and then also a big shout out to our sponsors. And those are at aviationcareerspodcast.com/payitforward, our Patreon sponsors, and those people that I've actually given money to give away the scholarships guide. And if you want a free scholarships guide, you can get it at aviationcareerspodcast.com/free. There's over $120 million in scholarships, and we update that monthly. But first, before we begin with our primary question, let's answer a few emails and also a correction that I had from the last podcast that we did. In the last podcast, we talked about the median pay. I said something different, but I wanted to make sure that the median pay from the regional airlines that I have had experience with is $46,000 a year, or $46 per hour. That's the median pay. Something that came up in one of the comments as far as pay for the airlines and pay for the regionals is, how about pay for air traffic controllers? And air traffic controllers, their median pay is $130,420, and the median pay is $134,440 for pilots. Not much of a difference there as far as pay is concerned, but there was some discussion as to the difference between those two online. Just remember, the median, half are above and half are below as far as numbers are concerned. That is the median pay. It's the one number that's smack dab in the middle. These numbers that I've given you, I usually get from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, you can go to BLS.com. I'm going to have all those links down in the show notes so you can check those out yourself. But anyway, so I just want to make sure that really you understand what the median pay is and make sure that I got that right. But another thing I want you to know is that it's really important that you don't just do this solely because you want money. Do it because you really enjoy actually your career. Anyway, let's move on to some of the questions. The first question says, I'm 58 years old and I'd like to know if there are scholarships available for someone like myself who was not able to complete his private pilot certificate several years ago due to an eye injury and now wants to get back into flying. I do fly a Kolb Firestar Ultralight, but would like to continue my education by getting my sport pilot license. I would continue to be a private, however. I don't want to jump through all the hoops and barrels that I would need to go through to renew my medical due to the injury. And I understand that. Hats off to you for continuing to fly. I think that's absolutely terrific. Yes, there's scholarships out there. Most scholarships are primarily for the younger folks. What we've done is in our scholarships guide, we've put in scholarships for adults and try to kind of think outside the box as to different organizations you might get scholarships from. So yeah, it's going to be a little more difficult being a little bit older to get scholarships, but more and more people, more and more organizations are realizing that, yeah, it's important to put scholarships out there for people of all ages, that's for sure. Anyway, hopefully that answered that question. Moving on to our next email is this. Hello, I'm from Chile and I have been listening to your podcast. You have very good information and it's excellent. Well, thank you. I have an inquiry about work in the USA. I have an ATP, an FA multi-engine plane, and I'm a 320 captain with 2,300 hours and 5,500 hours of total jet time. Also, I'm a helicopter pilot in Chile with over 1,500 hours. Chile and the U.S. have an agreement about H-1B-1 visas. Do you have some kind of information about jobs with contracts that allow me to work here in the U.S.? Thank you very much again, and I'm attentive to your answer. Best regards. Well, great question. Yes, there are airlines out there that'll work with visas. You know, I don't think there's a list out there. Boy, I don't know if I want to commit to putting one together, but it's not a bad idea. I do have a couple that I do know that work with H-1B-1 visas, and I'm not going to name them now because I usually have to go back and ask them, are you still doing this? But a lot of the regionals will do that. So most importantly to ask, will you folks actually work with my H-1B-1 visa? So yes, there are some out there, and I think it's important to just kind of do your research. In our resources page, you can see Airline Pilot Central. They have some of those regionals out there. They don't mention that usually, but I know there's companies like, I'll throw one out, Silver Airlines, Silver Airways. They've actually worked with people in the past. Don't know if they are right now. I'd have to reconfirm that, obviously, because things do change, but that's one that you could actually look towards and think about that. But actually a terrific question. Let's move on to our next question. The next question is from somebody who wants to build hours. Let me go ahead and read his question. It says, hello, Carl. I'm a CFI II, currently sitting at about 600 hours short of ATP minimums. Due to my full-time job, I can't teach as much as I want to. The road to ATP is long, but I own a Cessna 150, which I've used to get all my ratings and build the majority of my time. My question is, would recruiters see it as an issue if I build the majority of the remaining time with a safety pilot flying around in my personal Cessna 150? Or do you think regionals wouldn't pay much attention to this? What would they consider quality time if I chose this route? Thanks. Well, there are a couple things I'm assuming from your email as far as the airplane is concerned. First of all, you're flying in the system. I'm assuming that it's an instrument airplane and, IFR certified, so you can actually fly in the system. That's great experience. If you're flying in the system, it doesn't matter whether you're getting paid as an instructor or whether you're out there flying on your own. Flying is flying. So this is interesting. I've had clients in the past that have actually purchased an aircraft. One in particular purchased a 172 and built all their time in that 172 so they could get to the airlines and were able to get an interview with the airlines. Remember this, flight time is flight time is flight time. Is some flight time better than others? Yeah, flying in the system helps. So obviously you're flying in the system. Going back to, I think, another thing you mentioned on the safety pilot side of things, you remember there's some really large flight schools out there that I won't name that actually do this as a matter of course, where they fly all over the country and they have a safety pilot with them. So if you're flying with a safety pilot, well, and you operate, say, as a crew, pretend like you're in an airliner. Have the other person do checklists, et cetera, and be the flying or non-flying pilot. No, I think it's terrific. Just be careful about the time that you log when you have a safety pilot. I'm assuming the safety pilot is there trying to log time also, and make sure that you're in a situation where you both can log the time. So be careful of that. And as far as if you're flying under the hood, that type of thing. So just be careful what you're doing there as far as logging that time. But absolutely, if you have your own airplane and you're getting flight time, I would say go for it. I think that's absolutely terrific that you're able to do that. And it's a blessing to be able to do that. So yes, they will look at your time, but let's look at this. If you had a twin, a Baron, say, and you flew around the country in your Baron, I would look at that as great time. You're flying in the system, IFR, in a multi-engine aircraft. So yes, most definitely, the airlines look at that time as good time, because what's the difference between you being a flight instructor in a 150 and you flying your 150 around? So again, flight time's flight time. I do, when I'm looking at someone's logbook, by the way, and I'm looking at, the time they've had, I'll ask them, hey, what did you do during this period? You're not a flight instructor, but you got all this time. What kind of flying did you do? And they said, I went out on adventures, flew around the country, gives you great experience. And I actually really like that. I love that type of experience. So yes, absolutely do that. Go out there. If you've got the time, you got the money, go out and use your aircraft. Maybe look outside the box and think about, if you can afford it, getting insurance, maybe even teaching in your own plan. That's also another possibility. But I get it. The time is coming slow. But the good thing is there's a lot more people flying now and a lot more people wanting to learn how to fly. And the airlines, the jobs are coming back as far as revenue and all. I know all the airlines are warning and things are getting a little bit tougher right now. But in general, the outlook is good for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So this still is a great career. But most importantly, remember that you're doing this because you want to build time and quality time. So think about those things that might stretch what you're doing. Go places that are a bit of a challenge for you, places that you've never gone to before, busier airports, that type of thing. But hats off to you for being able to do that. And if you're somebody who's looking at buying an airplane to build flight time, it may work for you. And that's why we do the career counseling, the career coaching, is because we can kind of formulate a plan as to whether you should go out and purchase your own airplane and whether that's good for you. because everybody's situation's different, right? And we can't make a blanket statement about everybody. But I think that's absolutely terrific. If you're somebody who's interested in this podcast and also is out watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button for us and subscribe. Also, please think about helping other folks that want to move forward in their career by going to aviationcareerspodcast.com/payitforward. And if you want one of those free scholarships guide with over $120 million in scholarships, go to aviationcareerspodcast.com/free. But most importantly, and I think you're doing that now by watching this video or listening to this podcast, I want you to think about this. Whether you're looking into getting a visa, whether you're looking at trying to get scholarships, whether you're looking at building time in your own aircraft, the most important thing that you can do, no matter what it is in your career, is consistently move forward and take action now. So do this for me today. Make sure today, after you stop listening or watching this video, you go out there and you take one step today to move forward in your career and in your life. And I know that you will get to that destination that you want in your flying career and your flying life. Well, folks, I appreciate your listening, or if you're watching on YouTube, I really appreciate your coming here to visit with me. We'll talk to you next episode. Safe flying out there.